Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's good to see you all here. It's another wonderful stream from Power to Know. My name is Mayo Lusoji, and we have an interesting topic we'll be talking about today. I'm excited. I'm excited because this is one of the subject areas that has always bothered me. It's always made me ask questions. It's it's one of those things that I thought about and I would think that okay, it's something is not right here, something is not adding up. Basically, it falls within that particular purview of area. When you think about finances and life in general, you say this is not adding up at all. So today we will be discussing this topic I call stop acting rich, and I use the acronym SAR. Is stop acting rich, stop acting rich, stop acting rich. And when we say stop acting rich, what is it that we're really talking about? I think that's one of the things I will be talking about tonight. And how did it all happen? Actually, where did I get that from? It's I can remember. I think many years ago, I read Thomas Stanley's book, which is The Millionaire Next Door. And that book was one of the books that actually created, that foundational thinking about something is not right. What we actually thought about the wealthy, the millionaires is not what millionaires truly are. And that book was one of the books that I call the myth busters, busted all the myths around who the millionaires are really. And the book went into in-depth research. This book is around 20 or 25 years old, if not older, basically, if not older. That's how long this book has been around for. And it focuses on who we think the wealthy people are and who actually the really wealthy people are. It was a case whereby an organization, approached him and said, you know what? Can you let us know who are the people? Where do they live? What is their lifestyle? And that book got me. That was the book that really set me off on this trajectory of understanding what financial freedom really is. And 20 years later, David Ramsey did another research, which is probably one of the most extensive research you could do into understanding who the true wealthy are in America. And I think they interviewed close to 10,000 millionaires. And when we're talking about millionaires in this context, we're talking about people with a net worth of $1 million and above. That is what it means. Basically, what you own and what you owe when you take them off. The net value is $1 million. That was the context of the book. Now, in the middle of these two books, there was this book that was written by Thomas Stanley as well. And that book is actually Stop Acting Rich. And when I read the book, it blew me away in terms of what the book was talking about. And many years after reading the book, I've read the book a few times. And every time I turn around, I look around, I see what I call now the SAR syndrome, the acting rich syndrome, whereby when I look at something, I was like, is that true wealth or is that just somebody who's got the SAR syndrome, the acting rich, basically? And why is this important? Okay. Why it's important for us to talk about this, there is every organization in this present day and age is designed and weaponized to take from you. Every advert you see, every commercial, every billboard, gone are those days whereby you just only need to leave your house for you to be tempted or for you to pick your landline for you to be. But right now, right in on your mobile phones, there are adverts. There are so many ways whereby we are being bombarded and being overloaded with information about. There's just one message: buy me, buy me, buy me. And we've ended up to be like a kid, a child in a candy store who keeps looking 24/7, and there's that scream, buy me, buy me, buy me. But not until we really realize where the problem is, what it is, we're not going to be able to find a way out. So when we say stop acting rich, what am I talking about tonight? See, the first thing you've got to understand there is the problem is never money. The moment you come to this realization and know that the problem is not money, you're halfway there. What do I mean by that? When you understand that the problem you have, your financial problem, is nothing relating to the money you getting money, then you begin to look for other reasons why there's problem. Most financial problem we have, and when I mean most, I am talking about 70 to 80% of the people, of the population in terms of who are actually truly within financial problem. It is not because of money problem. It is not the income problem. Many people, most people don't have money problem. Many people have spending problems. I will say it again. The problem majority of us have, it is not our ability to earn or what we're earning. It is not an earning problem. It is not a money problem. It is a spending problem. Why did I say that? It doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum of life. There will be people ahead of you and there will be people below you. But haven't you noticed that the money problem is not a respecter of the so-called money problem? You see people who earn more than you saying they've got money problems. You see people who don't earn as much as you, they've got money problems. If you're having a conversation with somebody who you assume earns more than you, some way, one way or the other, you'll find that they've got their own financial problems they're dealing with. If you're speaking to people who are somehow a little bit below you in the rank in the income generating ladder, you find that they've got that same problem of earning, and you come to the conclusion which I came to long ago, that the problem is never having money. It is never the money problem. The true problem we have is spending problem. See, we were talking about a pandemic 3 years ago and the whole world came to an halt. We've been having a money problem pandemic and nobody seems to be paying attention. The governments have got spending problems. Well, you know, those ones, they have the ability to print money. So we cannot compare our personal problems. You know, I've heard people say that, what's the point now? I can owe money. Doesn't Nigeria owe money? Doesn't America owe money? Trust me, Nigeria owes money, America owes money, but both of them can print money. You cannot. So it would be the greatest stupidity in terms of comparing your ability to go into debt to that of sovereign nations. It's when I hear people say that, I just look at them and I was like, God help me. You need a miracle right now, miracle of a change of brain. That is the first problem. Once you realize that it is a spending problem, then you will dig a lot deeper to try and understand what is going on. And the second point is there are about 5 different narratives we all have and we all tell ourselves, or one way or the other, we've thought about it. The first narrative is the one I call the life you like. That is narrative 1. The second narrative we have is the life you deserve, the life I deserve. That's the second narrative. The third narrative is the life you want, the life I want. And the fourth narrative is the life you can afford and the life I can afford. Somewhere in between these 4 narratives, you've got to pick one because you're running your life according to one of them. The spending problem comes from when you are operating from the life you think you deserve, and most of the time it is the life you want, which does not match the life you can afford. And one thing you need to understand there is what you like, what you think you want, it's a function of your exposure and environment. Everything around you is influencing your ability to decide what you think you want and what is it that you want. So you've got factors that are influencing the life you like, the life you want, which indirectly influences the life you think you deserve. Come on this journey with me. So, directly or indirectly, you are not mostly aware of what you think you want or what you think you like. It is the environment you are in that influences that. Your appetite is mostly and always created and influenced by the environment you are. Have you ever not had scenarios whereby you're not hungry, you sat down, you're watching TV, all of a sudden you saw something and the craving for that thing comes from nowhere? All of a sudden, the car you have, you're happy with it. But you sat down, you watched this commercial of the latest model, and you just went crazy and you know what? I want one of those. Let me tell you one that is most relatable. Your mobile phone is working perfectly fine until, I'm not going to name any company, until one of these companies tell you they are launching a newer model. Basically, it operates 2 seconds faster than the old one. The battery lasts 15 minutes longer than the old one, and it allows you to take picture clearer than the old one. When was the picture you take with your phone ever not been clear? These are the factors that are influencing the life you think you want, the life you think you like, eventually making you to reinforce the life you deserve. And there are two things that are responsible for this syndrome, this stop acting rich syndrome. The first one is conformity. That is the greatest weapon, conformity. Everybody wants you to conform. Conformity, conformity, conformity. It's about, one of the ones I can remember very well there is, you watch this lovely Nike Jordan's trainers, and everybody wants to jump like Mike, and you want one of those. And if you don't have one of those, you think you're not cool. You think you don't belong. Conformity. The funniest thing about conformity there is conformity is a weapon to strip you of your identity, whereby the values of success are they are no longer intrinsic, they are intrinsic to you. Whereby before I can feel I'm a guy or I'm a girl or I'm hip, I've got to wear these trainers. Before I can feel I'm successful, I've got to dress this way. For me to feel successful, I've got to drink a particular cappuccino that is actually being endorsed by this actor. If that actor is taking it, trust me having it makes me cool. Those are conformity. And the other factor responsible is what I call part of the deadly sins: greed, envy, and jealousy. And these are where you have the I. I deserve this. I want this. It is my life. I only live once. The funniest thing, about this thing there is you do not base affordability on the life you think you deserve based on how hard you work. Let me say this again. You do not base the decision on your affordability based on how hard you think you've worked. Trust me, hard work and what you deserve are two different things. The fact you work 20 hours shift in a day and you've been doing it for the last 10 years does not mean you deserve certain things. No. You deserve what you can afford. Affordability is one of the key things that we almost mostly underestimate, and those are the things that get us into this financial maggot we get ourselves into. I hear that saying a lot. I deserve this. I've been working for. I do it as well. Look, it's a two-way street. I do it as well, whereby after I've worked a whole week and whatever it is, I come and say, you know what, trust me, I deserve this. You know, I've got to have this. But do you know one thing I've realized, that there is no amount of value of designer clothing or cars that can compensate for poor self-image. If you really drill to the root of why most of us act rich, is because we've tied our self-worth to intrinsic values. We've tied our self-worth to what people can see. We've made ourselves vulnerable to become, a victim of the acting rich syndrome. Faking it till you make it. I've got to look this way. Do you know the most painful part of it there is? Every time it's all about I and you, because these are the decisions that fuel acting rich syndrome. It is because there is a lack of generational thinking that is actually being processed inside of you. See, your wealth, your ability to earn now, it is not just for you. I'll say that again. Most of us, we are in the situation whereby we probably had nothing being transferred to us from a generation to another generation. We started from ground zero. Have you noticed that most of us are also working in that same script of ending up handing over nothing to the incoming generation? See, there is an opportunity cost to every purchase you make. Every purchase you make, every purchase you make. You have a limited time to be alive. You have a limited time to be strong. You have a limited time to work. You have a limited time to earn. Every time you earn and you take that earning and consume it, there is an opportunity cost for that expense. The problem there is we are not thinking generational enough for us to be able to think that this decision I'm making, how is it impacting the incoming generation? Let me ask you a question. The clothes you bought 5 years ago, what happened to them? Where are they right now? The supposedly designers you purchased for hundreds of dollars or whatever they have, where are they right now? It's either you've outgrown them, if you're like me, you've gone outside the size, you cannot fit into them again, you've got to buy another one. Then what is the point? We go about putting other people's label on ourselves just because what to be accepted. Oh, I saw that guy's shoe is red. Christian Louboutin. Wow, that's 1,000. And then what? And then what? You said the book I was talking about earlier on. What Thomas Stanley found out was, okay, when they interviewed the millionaires, they saw the way the millionaires were spending. They were like, okay, this is what the data is telling us from what the millionaires are spending. They now look at the luxury items and the luxury products, who is buying them, and the sort of the volume of the people buying them, the volume that were being sold. And there is a discrepancy. Something is not adding up. The number of millionaires we know, what they are buying is nothing like the volume of the things that are being sold. So the question is, who is buying? Who is buying this product? And they now realize that it's actually the people who cannot really afford them. Every time it's time for you to make a decision on a purchase, and that decision is not thought through properly. That decision is from a place of greed. That decision is from a place of I deserve this. I have worked this many hours. That decision is based on your ability to afford the minimum payments, not to afford the item as a whole. You are exposing yourself to what I call the actor rich syndrome. Just because you have 5,000, 7,000, 8,000 pounds or dollars saved up does not mean you can afford a 1,000 pounds shoe. That is financial lunacy. See, we keep making these terrible financial decisions under the guise of I work so hard, I should be able to use it. Who told you that? Trust me, I've been in that shoe whereby I thought I could buy things just because of how hard I work, not because of how much I've saved, not because of what I can afford, not because I thought about okay, what's going to happen in 20 years from now. See, you're never going to be this active and you are living longer. What do you think your 65-year-old self will be saying to you right now? Do you know data shows that 65% of Americans and even the British are actually just 2 paychecks away from going bust? That means 60% of the population live paycheck to paycheck. So if their boss says, we are not paying you this month, there is going to be wahala. How can you work for over 20, 15, 10 years and you cannot do 6 months without pay? If no one is going to tell you this, I will tell you. Stop being financially reckless. And I'm telling myself the same thing. See, I was looking at the data. I would share a data now if I can find it. I was looking at the data and they were showing the gap between some particular races in the world in different regions. I checked in the UK, I checked in the US, and there was a theme. There seems to be a particular race that seems to be at the bottom of the pile every time. Kilo de why? And I was seeing that it's Black Africans always at the bottom. Don't get me wrong, it does not mean everybody is. It just means the biggest population. That is the sample data. I can remember in the 90s, when we watch all these music videos, the first thing you will see is for somebody to be able to appear they are hip and cool is they will get a fleet of cars, they will get all the bling 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 out, and you will hear the same person in 1, 2, 3, 4 years later, they are broke. See, we've got serious problem. We're gonna face it. You can imagine someone who earns 40,000 pounds or $40,000 and is driving a car that is $65,000. Well, I know you can afford to pay the 700 pounds or $700 a month. But when we talk about your actual worth, your net worth, that means your asset and your liability, you are in minus. And you're very happy to impress people you don't know, who don't care about you, just because you want the accolade of saying, oh, you're cool. You want that tick on Instagram or wherever it is. We've heard of stories of people posing in other people's cars, just saying that is their car for what? Just people can assume you have wealth. And if you really dig deep, people who actually have this wealth, they have no reason to prove they have it. One of the things which Dave Ramsey, from following him after a while, he calls them the everyday millionaire. The signs of him knowing, okay, that could be an everyday millionaire. And over time, I've been able to study and quickly analyze when I meet people. And I'll tell my wife if she's with me, I'll say, I think that is one of the everyday millionaire. Not because you can tell from a mile away the way they are blinging, the noise in the car because they're driving the latest reg car. No, it's just because of there's something calm about them. They are not attempting to show you what they're worth. If all your attempt is for me to be able to put a worth on you from just looking at you, then you broke. Imagine you running into Mark Zuckerberg, when he's going for his jog. You can barely tell he's a billionaire. Imagine you running through. Bill Gates is currently in, well, he went to Nigeria last week. And I saw that man sat down answering questions. For crying out loud, if I'm just being dropped into the planet Earth and they showed me the two of them talking, I'll just say that's a white guy and a black guy talking. When it comes to their wells, I will not be able to tell who is well there. But trust me, how many times have you walked down in a mall on the street and you can see how hard someone is trying to make you think or show they're wealthy based on what they wear? I've got to have this. See, whenever it gets to I've got to have this, then there's a problem. How many people have mortgaged their future just because of immediate consumption? For crying out loud, what is a secondary school student doing with an iPhone that cost over £1,000? See, we encourage this financial recklessness and we wonder why these coming generations are just financially reckless. Let me break it down to you. When they say, okay, especially in the West, they've got a mobile phone contract. This is what it means. They took out a loan to get a phone and they will now put a line to it. The line is probably £9 or $10, and the cost of the mortgage or the cost of the loan for the phone is 40. They will add it together and they will tell you your price plan is £55. And if somebody asks you, no, me, I've got no debt, but I pay £55 on my phone. No, you've got to borrow money on a piece of gadget that after 12 months, they will tell you, come and upgrade. Yeah, I did it. Trust me, I've been there, done that one, the t-shirt, burn the t-shirt. And there is something financial stability does to us. The time to recover keeps reducing. The older you get, the fewer the chance of your recovery. So you cannot continue to make the same financial. And there's one thing that this thing does there is, once you start that way of life, it is very hard for you to downsize. See, there is a blessing and there is a secret to your ability to live way below your means. Many organizations, many countries are living way above their means. That is why they say country is in debt to this tone. That means what they've gone to borrow, they don't have. What is your current net worth? That means everything you own and everything you owe. Please, that car you have a payment on, whatever the balance is, you owe it until you return it or you pay it off. You can imagine if your mortgage and your rent and your car payment is already 60-70% of your take-home pay. How on earth is that sanity in any way? How do you get to live? There's this saying, cut your coat according to your size. And that is where we get the financial pressure we put ourselves in. These are self-inflicted. Most of the problem we have, they are money problems. See, let me give you a scenario. Ronaldo earns about 100 million a year, thereabout, give or take. Ronaldo can go and buy a Ferrari of 300,000. That is like you spending 10 naira or 10 pounds or $10 on your annual wage. It has no impact on you. It's a drop in the ocean. But you earn 70 or 60 and you went to carry a car that is 60 or 70. And you said, but the minimum payment is what? The minimum payment is 600. I earn 4,000. I can pay 600-700 on that. In the guise of why you want to be cool. I remember an athlete over his lifespan, I think he made around 600 million. You know this person, I don't want to mention names. Right now is worth less than 3 million. Barely. So trust me, there is almost no amount of money you cannot squander with your inability to be reasonable and to be sensible. This thing ruined a whole generation of superstars those days. Name them, most of them are in debt. And that is what most of us, we are unable to take days off when we want, not because of what we actually want to do, it's because of what we are made to do. Most of us, we just made one stupid financial decision to get a mortgage we cannot afford. See, don't let anybody pressure you into a lifestyle that will cut your life short. Let me tell you this story. It's a real life story. There is a guy who drives a Mercedes Benz. I'm not sure which of the whatever model it is. And because of the conditions of this guy being able to get the car, there is a particular number of miles the guy's got to drive in a year. If it goes beyond that, he's got to pay more. And this guy will be calling on his friends who are driving their 2,000 pounds car to say, oh, can you take me here? They will say what happens. Say, no, I can't drive the car today. Why? Because I'm close to my annual mileage threshold. It's funny that people who appear to be comfortable come to the people who appear to be below them to seek for loan and to seek for financial assistance. I remember in the area where I was living, there are a couple of flats just opposite where I live. And there was a point in time where I saw somebody who is a tenant in the flat, and the car the person drives is almost 2 times the value of the monthly rental they pay on the property. To me, I looked at it, I was like, wow, stupidity has no end. How can you pay more on a car payment than you pay on the rent in the house you live? Even when it comes to property, the rule of the thumb is anytime your rent or your mortgage is more than 25% of your take-home pay, you already have the acting rich syndrome. Do you know the people that are meant to be wearing Christian Louboutin and all those designers? Those are the mega rich. Do you know the people that are meant to be driving the Ferraris and the Rolls Royces? Those are not millionaires, though. Those are the deca millionaires. An average car payment now is around 5 to 6 to 700 pounds or dollars. Even in dollars, that one is even crazy. And we know the average take-home pay is between 40 to 60,000. That brings you back to something around 3,000 net after tax. By the time you take that, you take your car insurance, you take all the bills out, you take your rent, and then you're left with barely making it through. And your inability to make sound financial decision is robbing you of the time to be able to prepare for the future you will eventually face. Have you looked around and see the number of cars on the road and think there's got to be more wealthy people than it's assumed to be? People cannot be. Do you know that when they checked the retirement fund in the UK and they found out that almost 75% of them were underfunded? People live as if they're going to die tomorrow. And you meet them at the mall, probably 10, 15 years later, you see them, they are very grumpy. Why? They missed their turn. They mismanage the funds. They don't have any financial literacy whatsoever, and they continue. See, everybody makes mistakes. The point of mistake is for you to make them and learn from them so you don't make it again. So why is it that we keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over? We keep spending more than what we make, and we still keep thinking a miracle will come through when we cannot use the common sense of living below our means. I know people that when they get a little pay rise or they get another job that pays them a little more, they upgrade the lifestyle to feel the difference in that pay. So they are back to square one. There was a case of, I think that was before COVID, and there was a case of a guy just started contracting, and they do pay contractors well. The first thing he went to do was to go and carry a cab. Understandably, that was his choice, but only for the contract to be cut down almost a week after then. You're not going to go back to the company and tell them you're returning the car. So you already put yourself in a financial stress before you. There is a joy that comes from you being able to live way below your means. When you read about Warren Buffett, everybody loves Warren Buffett as an intelligent, but who can live the life he lives? The man lived in the same house he was in for 40 years. I'm not telling you to live in the same house for 40 years. But I'm not telling you to go from 0 to 100 just like that. Everything is in stages. The book, The Millionaire Next Door, found out that actually the true millionaires are not the people that live in all these rich areas we know. They're actually people that live amongst us. Do you know the problem of living within the affluent? It is not just because of the cost of the house in the area. When you buy that big house, you will buy a complimentary car that goes with it. You will buy complimentary furniture that goes with it. You will make sure your children go to the same school they go. And all of a sudden, you would wonder, where are you getting this supposedly hypertension from? It's because of you upscaling your life to a level you're not ready for. The fact you've got a rise in pay does not mean there should be a rise in your status. Because you just got the new job which pays you 2 times your current wage does not mean you should not exponentially increase your lifestyle by 2. If you do that, then you're back to ground zero. Because you were complaining you didn't have money, you got a new job that pays you ×2, you increased your lifestyle by ×2, you're back to zero. Because the difference that is meant to be the buffer, that is meant to help you prepare for the future, you've squandered that just because you want to appear you're fitting with the Joneses. Newsflash, the Joneses are broke. I've seen people who live in rented properties in Nigeria that run 2 vehicles that combined cost of those 2 vehicles will buy them a lovely small bungalow somewhere. I've seen students who are buying hundreds of thousands of naira of consumable goods. Nothing is wrong with you looking good. Just make sure the opportunity cost of you looking good is not your future. Just make sure that is the case. You've got to start to act your age, your wage. I mean, there is nothing as good as you operating just below that your wage. If your wage is 20,000, act as if and plan according like you earn just 15. So when external forces like what we're going through now, inflation comes and the cost of living goes up, you are not complaining that egg was £1, so egg is now £3, and then what? People who complain like that are people who were living close to the margin. There is a skill that comes with, and a peace that comes with knowing that, see, aspire to be big, dream big, but start small. Ask yourself, the current life you're living in, can you truly afford it? If your answer is yes, what is your definition of affordability? If you lose that job you have today, how long will you go before you come into a financial Armageddon? There is this one of this man I really admire so much. He said something. He said, there is no way you've worked for 20 years and you cannot take 6 weeks or 6 months off just to do what? To take some time out for you to be able to reprioritize your life. Many of us, we cannot even take a day off. We can't even take a week of light. Why? Because we live paycheck to paycheck. Before the next payday comes, already we are in overdraft. Some of us, our account has never even witnessed what is called a week of what? A week of green. It's always red. The payment comes in, bang, and it comes in like this. Immediately everything goes up back again, and we're back into overdraft region. Why do we do that to ourselves? We live and we say we are leveraging on credit cards. See, it's been proven by data that most millionaires did not become millionaires because they carry credit card balance. See, there's so many weapons of financial destruction out there. There's so many financial instruments that will get you into trouble. It is financial problem that got us into the 2008 crash that we got into. The problem we're going into right now, it's a result of the financial engineering men have created, and we have just so gullibly accepted and just went with it. There is no peace that comes to owing no man nothing. Yeah, I know your house is an asset, but is it the kind of asset you can afford if the interest rate goes up like it's going up right now? Do you know how many people that could afford their mortgages 6 months ago, and right now rates has gone from 2% to 7%, and they could not remortgage because they could not afford it? See, external factors can make you go from comfort to discomfort if you've not planned your life properly. And anybody who always walks close to the line will eventually get bitten. So my question to you tonight there is, after considering all, have you ever thought about the fact that nothing was handed over from the coming generation? You should do something. See, I don't subscribe to you giving too much to kids too early and things like that. Teach them what makes you you, but give them a platform they can build from. You started from ground zero. Why must your children start to build again from ground zero? My favorite book says a good man leaves an inheritance for their children's children. See, when you raise the children right and you leave them an inheritance, you leave them in a better position to be able to excel in life. I'm not telling you to go and do all these stupid, crazy things people do. Buy jeans of 100, 200, 300, 400 pounds for a child. For crying out loud, if you're not a deca millionaire, you shouldn't even be thinking about it. I'm sorry, I can't control what you do, but I'll tell you what the truth is. Let us begin to practice some basic financial responsibility. You know, I did a calculation and said, okay, in the UK, they pay nurses very well. That is good. Let's say a nurse earns around 50,000, maybe some earn more. Do you know it's very easy for you to just with one decision to purchase a car where you paid 1,000 a month or 900 a month, to put yourself under the pressure of you have to work every day of the week just because you want to keep up with the payment of the car, because you want to look like the Joneses. So ask yourself, all the way from your decision on the mobile phone you're using, do you really need iPhone 14 when your iPhone 12 still works very well? That is where it starts. Some people, where they're carrying on their hair is a plot of land in some countries. And you'll be telling somebody to send you top-up card, and the hair you're carrying is the plot of land. Your phone itself is a plot of land. You alone, you are like 2 plots of land, and what? You're still asking for Uber money. Come on, let's wake up. We cannot continue to do the same financial stupidity, recklessness that got our generation to where we are, and don't want to leave this place a better place. For the sake of our children, let's begin to build. I'm not saying send your children to a place just because you want to be able to tell your friends, yeah, my children goes to private school, just because you want to feel hip. No. I'm telling you to be genuine about the things you're doing. Some parents, they do that just because they want to be able to sit in the middle of a friend and say, oh, which school is your children going to? My children is going to this private school, blah, 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 blah. Because of your selfish interest, your selfish accolade. There's nothing wrong with those great schools. The question is, can you afford it? If you cannot, then what's the point? So many generation has been destroyed because they pull what does not belong to them. Ends they were not home to be there for the family. Ends the children went awry. Ends the marriage broke up, and they begin to blame what? They begin to blame each other, not knowing is the financial recklessness they brought on themselves that tore the family apart. Have you thought about that at all? You work 7 days a week, your other partner works 7 days a week. How do you get time to spend time together? How do you know the children? So, as we finish tonight, just ask yourself this question. Am I suffering from acting rich syndrome? Every time you want to make a financial decision, always ask yourself that. What is the opportunity cost? What am I giving up for this? See, the guy at the traffic light does not care the car you drive. See, we are not really that important to think that the whole world is looking at us. See, the world will look at you for a moment and they will move on to the next thing. So you're not as important as you think. The only people you are important to are the ones you are actually taking time away from because you want to feel and pay for the lifestyle to impress the people who don't really care about you. So remember, knowledge, most importantly, understanding, and not just understanding is application of that. My question to you tonight is, are you suffering from acting rich syndrome? Thank you very much and see you again in a couple of weeks. My name is Mayo Olusoji. God bless.